In today's case, we bring you a chilling and twisted tale, one of love, betrayal, and an unspeakable crime that unfolded during what should have been the happiest days of a couple's life. This is the story of the Newlywed Murders. A tale of trust shattered and secrets exposed. This case will leave you wondering, how well do we ever really know the person we vow to spend our lives with? Stay with us as we unravel the tragic and twisted story of the Newlywed Murders. A dream honeymoon turned into a nightmare. A husband's frantic call to police claimed his wife had vanished. But as the investigation unraveled, so did the story he told, a story filled with lies, betrayal, and a dark plan hidden in plain sight. Emma Walsh and Ryan Cole seemed like a couple straight out of a fairy tale. Emma, a 27-year-old elementary school teacher, was known for her warmth and kindness. Her students adored her, and her friends often described her as someone who lit up every room she walked into. Ryan, at 30, was the definition of charm. A self-proclaimed entrepreneur, he exuded confidence and ambition, making him the perfect match for Emma, or so it seemed. Their love story unfolded quickly. After meeting through mutual friends, they became inseparable. Within a year, Ryan proposed during a romantic trip to Santorini, and Emma, swept off her feet, said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was the talk of their small hometown, a grand, picturesque ceremony with every detail meticulously planned. From the flower arrangements to the lavish reception, everything about their wedding day reflected a couple deeply in love. Family and friends toasted to their future, confident that they were witnessing the beginning of a lifelong romance. For their honeymoon, Emma and Ryan chose the Maldives, a dream destination known for its crystal-clear waters and overwater bungalows. Social media lit up with envy as Emma posted snapshots of their idyllic getaway. The couple appeared to be basking in wedded bliss, sipping cocktails under the sun, sharing intimate candlelit dinners, and strolling hand in hand along the pristine beaches. To the outside world, their honeymoon was the epitome of perfection, a continuation of the fairy tale romance everyone believed they shared. But behind the curated Instagram posts and smiling photos lay a reality far more complex. Ryan had been unusually insistent on planning every aspect of the honeymoon, leaving Emma little say in the details. While she chalked it up to his excitement and desire to make the trip special, there were subtle signs that something was amiss. Friends later recalled that Ryan had grown distant in the months leading up to the wedding. He often dodged questions about his business, which he claimed was flourishing. He seemed preoccupied, distracted, even tense at times. But Emma, ever the optimist, brushed aside her concerns. She had found her prince charming, and she was determined to make their marriage work. The first few days of the honeymoon seemed to go smoothly. Resort staff remembered the couple as polite and affectionate, though Emma appeared quieter than expected, almost as if something was weighing on her. 4 days into their honeymoon, the serene atmosphere of the luxurious resort shattered with Ryan Cole's desperate call for help. He claimed that his wife, Emma Walsh, had gone for a midnight swim in the tranquil waters surrounding their overwater bungalow and never returned. Panic spread quickly through the resort staff, who immediately launched a search. Boats were dispatched, flashlights cut through the darkness, and divers combed the crystal-clear waters as the hours ticked by. Despite the swift response, there was no trace of Emma. The once lively couple who had been seen laughing and enjoying their stay had suddenly become the center of a grim mystery. Ryan's distress seemed palpable as he pleaded with the authorities for answers, his voice cracking as he recounted the events of the night. But as the hours turned to days and Emma remained missing, whispers of doubt began to circulate. What began as a missing person case soon spiraled into a chilling mystery. Staff members who had initially been sympathetic to Ryan's plight began to recount small but suspicious details from earlier that night. The couple had spent the evening at the resort's bar, but their interactions were far from the picture-perfect honeymooners they appeared to be. Witnesses recalled hearing raised voices, Emma's tone sharp, Ryan's clipped. One server remembered the distinct tension in the air as Emma abruptly left the bar, leaving Ryan alone to finish his drink. Ryan's version of events seemed oddly inconsistent. He described Emma as carefree and relaxed, eager to take a spontaneous swim beneath the moonlight. Yet, this didn't align with Emma's personality, as described by her close friends and family. She was cautious and practical, the type to follow rules, especially in an unfamiliar setting. Her family, who had flown to the Maldives upon hearing the news, found it nearly impossible to believe that Emma would venture into the water at night without hesitation. The unraveling of their picture-perfect story had begun. As investigators delved into the events of that night, cracks in Ryan's carefully constructed façade would come to light. Beneath the polished surface of their love story lay secrets so dark and calculated that they would leave everyone wondering, how well do we ever truly know the person we trust with our heart and our life? As investigators dug deeper into the events leading up to her disappearance, Ryan's behavior came under scrutiny. He alternated between displays of grief and moments of unsettling composure. Resort security footage became a critical piece of evidence. While Emma was last seen heading toward their bungalow hours before the alleged midnight swim, Ryan was captured walking alone along the dock in the early hours of the morning. He wasn't running, shouting, or searching, but instead appeared eerily calm, a demeanor that didn't match his frantic call for help just hours later. Emma's family brought forward unsettling details that added to the growing suspicions. Just before the honeymoon, Emma had confided in her sister, mentioning that Ryan had grown increasingly controlling in the months leading up to their wedding. She admitted to feeling uneasy but dismissed her concerns as pre-wedding jitters. This revelation painted a stark contrast to the love-struck image Emma had tried to portray. Authorities began to suspect that Emma's disappearance wasn't a tragic accident, but something far more sinister. Ryan's polished exterior, which had charmed so many, began to crack under the weight of mounting questions. His inconsistencies, the couple's public argument, and the odd circumstances surrounding Emma's alleged swim painted a chilling picture of a man who might not be as devastated as he claimed. The search for Emma continued, but so did the search for the truth. What had happened to her that night? And why did Ryan's version of events feel like it was hiding more than it revealed? As the case progressed, the growing shadows around Ryan's story hinted at a terrible secret waiting to be exposed. As investigators dug deeper into Emma Walsh's disappearance, Ryan Cole's once charming facade began to crumble. What initially seemed like a tragic accident was beginning to take on a far more sinister tone. Authorities started to piece together a series of troubling clues that cast doubt on Ryan's story and his role in the events of that fateful night. Financial records became the first crack in the image Ryan had carefully constructed. His claim of being a successful entrepreneur was nothing more than a mirage. Bank statements revealed a grim reality: Ryan was drowning in debt. His business, which he had proudly flaunted to friends and even Emma, was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Credit card bills, unpaid loans, and mounting liabilities painted a picture of a man desperate for a way out. One discovery stood out among the financial chaos. 2 weeks before their wedding, Ryan had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on Emma. At the time, he justified it as a precaution for their future, a practical step for a married couple starting their lives together. But in light of Emma's disappearance, the timing felt anything but coincidental. Investigators couldn't ignore the glaring possibility that Ryan might have seen Emma not as his partner, but as a solution to his financial ruin. The story took another dark turn when authorities uncovered Ryan's connection to a woman named Paige Turner. Paige, a former girlfriend, had been in sporadic contact with Ryan leading up to his wedding. Emails between the two painted a chilling picture. Phrases like "starting over and everything will be better soon" hinted at a sinister plan. Though Paige initially denied involvement, the correspondence made it clear she was aware of Ryan's intentions and supported his desire for a fresh start, one that didn't include Emma. As suspicions mounted, local authorities continued their search for tangible evidence. The breakthrough came when a fisherman reported finding a suitcase floating near a secluded part of the shoreline. The contents were devastating: clothing belonging to Emma, personal items she had brought on the trip, and most disturbingly, a blood-stained scarf. Forensic analysis confirmed the blood on the scarf matched Emma's, and fibers from the suitcase were traced back to the couple's honeymoon villa. This evidence was the tipping point. What had once been speculation was now becoming a case built on undeniable proof. Ryan's story of a midnight swim began to unravel entirely. While investigators worked to piece together the sequence of events, Emma's family was left reeling from the revelations. The idyllic honeymoon they had seen through Emma's social media posts had been a facade, hiding the growing tension between the couple. Her family now feared that Emma's gut feelings about Ryan's controlling behavior had been warning signs of something far worse. With every new discovery, the narrative shifted. Ryan's polished image as a loving husband gave way to a portrayal of a man desperate, deceitful, and calculating. The suitcase, the insurance policy, and the emails painted a horrifying picture of premeditation. But even as the evidence mounted, the biggest question remained unanswered: where was Emma? The search for her body and the truth continued, but one thing was becoming clear. This was no accident. It was a carefully orchestrated plan, and the story was far from over. The discovery of Emma Walsh's belongings, including the blood-stained scarf, turned the investigation into a murder case. All eyes were now on Ryan Cole, whose web of lies was beginning to unravel. The forensic evidence tied him directly to Emma's disappearance, and his increasingly erratic behavior only added to the growing suspicion that he was hiding something far more sinister than a tragic accident. Ryan maintained his innocence, insisting that he had no idea what had happened to Emma. He claimed the blood-stained scarf was from a minor injury she had suffered earlier in the trip, and suggested that the suitcase had somehow been misplaced. But the evidence painted a very different picture, and investigators were no longer willing to take his explanations at face value. Surveillance footage from the resort proved to be one of the most damning pieces of evidence. In the footage, Ryan could be seen struggling to carry a large suitcase out of their bungalow late at night. He made his way toward the dock with deliberate steps, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. The suitcase matched the description of the one later found by the fisherman, and Ryan's calm demeanor in the footage starkly contrasted with the frantic, grieving husband he portrayed to the authorities. Additional forensic tests revealed even more troubling details. Traces of Emma's blood were found inside the suitcase, along with fibers from their bungalow's carpet. These findings pointed to a violent struggle, one that had likely occurred in the privacy of their villa. Investigators believed Emma had fought back, and the blood-stained scarf was a chilling reminder of her final moments. Under mounting pressure, Ryan's carefully constructed story began to collapse. Witness testimony, financial motives, and forensic evidence all pointed to premeditation. The life insurance policy, the mounting debts, and the incriminating emails with Paige Turner painted a picture of a man who had planned Emma's death long before their honeymoon began. Faced with the overwhelming evidence, Ryan finally broke. He confessed that he had lured Emma to the Maldives with the intention of killing her and making it look like a tragic accident. His plan had been to drown her during a late-night swim, and claimed she had wandered into the water of her own accord. But Emma had fought back, resisting his attempts to overpower her. In the chaos, Ryan panicked and used the scarf to silence her, ultimately taking her life. He detailed how he had placed Emma's body in the suitcase and disposed of it in the ocean, believing it would sink and never be found. But his miscalculation had led to its discovery, along with the damning evidence inside. Even as he confessed, Ryan attempted to shift blame, painting himself as a desperate man pushed to the edge by financial stress. He claimed his love for Emma was genuine, and that he had made a terrible mistake. But the evidence told a different story, one of cold, calculated intent driven by greed and self-preservation. While Emma's body was never recovered, Ryan's confession and the physical evidence were enough to secure his arrest. The trial loomed ahead, but for Emma's family, the nightmare was far from over. They were left with unanswered questions, haunted by the thought of Emma's final moments and the betrayal she had endured at the hands of the man she had trusted most. Ryan Cole's arrest sent shockwaves through the small community that had once celebrated his and Emma Walsh's seemingly perfect union. The revelation of his confession and the calculated plan to murder his new wife left everyone struggling to reconcile the charming man they thought they knew with the cold, calculating killer he had proven to be. Yet, even with his confession, the case was far from over. The upcoming trial promised to reveal even darker truths about what had really happened on that doomed honeymoon. Prosecutors wasted no time building their case against Ryan. They meticulously laid out the evidence, starting with the life insurance policy he had taken out on Emma just weeks before the wedding. The motive was clear. Ryan's financial ruin had left him desperate, and Emma's death represented a way to escape his mounting debts. The suitcase, the blood-stained scarf, and the forensic evidence from the villa all painted a chilling picture of premeditated murder. The emails between Ryan and Paige Turner were presented as further proof of his intent. Though Paige denied any direct involvement, the correspondence showed that she had been aware of Ryan's desire to start a new life, one that did not include Emma. Paige's name became a media sensation, with headlines speculating about her potential role in the crime. Though she was never charged, the shadow of suspicion followed her long after the trial ended. Ryan's defense team attempted to shift the narrative, painting him as a man who had acted in a moment of desperation rather than as part of a calculated plan. They argued that Emma's death was a tragic accident that had spiraled out of control. They claimed Ryan's confession had been coerced under immense pressure from investigators. But the evidence was too overwhelming, and Ryan's calm demeanor in the surveillance footage contradicted any claim of panic or remorse. Emma's family sat in the courtroom every day, enduring the grueling details of the case. They listened as witnesses recounted the couple's honeymoon and as experts detailed the forensic evidence that linked Ryan to the crime. Their grief was compounded by the realization that Emma's body had never been recovered, leaving them without the closure they so desperately sought. The jury deliberated for just 2 days before returning with a guilty verdict. Ryan was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge, in delivering the sentence, described Ryan's actions as cold, calculated, and driven by greed. The court's decision brought some measure of justice, but for Emma's loved ones, the pain of her loss was a wound that would never fully heal. In the months following the trial, Emma's family worked to honor her memory. They started a foundation in her name, dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence and raising awareness about the warning signs of controlling relationships. They hoped that Emma's story would serve as a cautionary tale, encouraging others to trust their instincts and seek help when something feels wrong. The resort where Emma disappeared became a dark tourist destination, a grim reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded in paradise. Travelers would glance at the overwater bungalows with unease, reminded that even the most idyllic settings can hide the darkest secrets. As for Ryan, he would spend the rest of his life in prison, left to face the consequences of his greed and betrayal. But the question lingered in the minds of everyone who followed the case: how could someone go to such lengths to destroy the person they claimed to love? It was a question with no satisfying answer, one that left a haunting shadow over the story of Emma Walsh and the honeymoon that ended in tragedy.